Hi, my name is Kao Kalia Yang. I'm Hmong American. I am a writer of many books for children, starting with A Map into the World, which we have right here on Bob's Special Bunch. The Most Beautiful Thing, The Shared Room, Yang Warriors, From the Tops of the Trees, the Apala award-winning picture book. And Cage is coming out from Kokila.
Hi there, I'm Gianna from Family Fun Twin Cities, and this is the Let's Go Do Fun Stuff show. We are splashing into summer reading with local author Kao Kalia Yang. She is a delightful author with 3 children of her own, and her stories are for both children and adults, and they display the beauty of life. Elouise joined us again for this super-duper interesting conversation. If you aren't sure where to splash into reading, start with these picture books. The art is beautiful, and the stories are hauntingly poetic.
What inspired you to turn your story into a children's book?
My daughter. So I have a daughter named Shen Yang, and I was reading the newspapers one day, and there was a big picture of children in cages in our southwestern border. And Shen Yang said, "Mommy, is that children in cages?" And I said, "Yes." And she said, "What's it like?" And at first I was going to say, "I don't know." And then you know what I remembered? When I was 6 years old, all the way up to 6 years old, I lived in a big cage, a refugee camp. And so after thinking about that, I started talking to Shen Yang about it. And she said, "You should write that and make it a picture book for all kids so that they understand." And so I decided, why not?
What were some feelings you felt when writing this book?
You know, whenever I remember the past, it brings me a feeling like I'm visiting people who are no longer here in my life, you know, and so it's kind of a special feeling. So I feel a little bit like I'm time traveling, but I also feel, because it's fictional, right, that I can give people incredible names that I've always wanted to give characters, and then it was just fun. Children's imaginations can never, ever be held in cages. And so the book is very much about that, how children's imaginations fly beyond the borders that hold them in. And so it was, in that way, very magical for me.
What was a challenge you faced when writing a book about your own experiences?
You know, for me, one of the big challenges is that this is fiction. And so as somebody who's written a lot of memoirs and books about real life, I had to give myself the freedom to adventure into places I've never gone to before. And sometimes giving yourself that license to do so, it's a hard thing. And so at some point I had to say, pause. Kalia, you can go anywhere with this. You don't have to stay close to the ground. You can really take flight as a writer, like the children in the book. So that was something that was challenging, but also very cool, Elouise.
How long did it take you to write it?
This is the book that's taken the longest in terms of my children's books. All of the other books have taken less time. You know, it's from a further away press in New York City, and so communications have been slower as well. All in all, I think this book has taken over 4 years.
Were you ever able to reconnect with your family you had to leave?
In my real life, some of them have died. Others of them are no longer anywhere where I can reach them, but some of them I have, and it's a very special thing. I know that our relationships to the people in our lives are very special.
Do you have plans to write more children's books?
Yes, I do. So Cage comes out in May. In September, I have a middle grade debut fiction called The Diamond Explorer. And then next year, I believe I have maybe as much as 3 picture books coming.
My birthday's in September.
Is it? What day is it?
And then it was time for me to jump in. So here I am jumping in with Elouise.
When you read Caged with your parents, was it with your mama?
Yeah, and this morning.
Oh, was it this morning? So these are like brand new questions, right?
Yeah, I just made them.
Like you figured it out as you were reading, right?
Yeah.
When you read that book, how did it make you feel? Like, I'm sure there was more than one emotion. What were the emotions that it made you feel?
I felt happy when they were imagining.
Mm-hmm.
But then I felt kind of scared about the people with those soldiers with guns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Is that what you wanted kids to think about and feel? Like, what was your hope?
I'm always open to all kinds of feelings that kids bring to the page. So I don't actually hope for a certain feeling. What I'm more interested in is a deeper understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what happened, right? You understand that in this place where children dream, there are also very real dangers.
Yeah. It's a pretty, I don't know if I would use the word intense, because you wrote it very, like, really well for this age to comprehend.
Yeah.
But it's some serious subject.
It is, because I think kids live in our world and the realities that we occupy are serious sometimes. And so part of my job as a writer is to make these experiences in the world, I think, to introduce them to kids. Because there are many people in the world who also grow up in refugee camps. There are lots of kids your age and younger who are now just becoming refugees. And so this experience, I think, is very important for all of us to understand so that we can understand each other better.
When I was your age, well, maybe a little bit older, but when I was your age, we had some Hmong come to our town, some families come to our town living in Minnesota. That happened a lot. And I didn't understand what they went through. Like, wow, that story was beautiful, because kids are kids no matter what they're going through, right? Whether they're hiding as Jews during Nazi occupation or they're running for their lives from the Laotian army, or they're in their backyard on a sunny day in Minnesota, right? Like, kids are kids.
Kids are kids all over the world under many different circumstances.
Yeah. And I liked how you said this book, the story that she wrote, helps kids have empathy for other kids. Do you know what that means?
Not really.
Do you know, like, when Penny, your little sister, your baby sister, is sad,
Yeah.
do you sometimes feel sad because she's sad?
Yeah.
That's empathy. If somebody is happy because they won an award, you won a couple of awards,
Oh, yeah?
would you, or a friend won like a race or something, and they're happy, would you be happy? That's empathy. How did you come about your writing career?
I started out at the age of 22. I was in college. I was at Carleton College. My grandma, who had always said that she would be there at graduation, she died in February, just a few months before my graduation. My grandma's biggest fear was that she would be forgotten. And so I wrote my first book to remember her. Li, an old woman who never learned how to read or write because she'd never been in a classroom. But a woman who could read the things that came from the ground, the direction of the wind, a respected shaman in the Hmong community. Do you know what a shaman is? A shaman is like maybe like a church leader, somebody who travels to the other world beyond the one that we live in to bring back sick spirits, lost spirits. So that's what my grandma was. She was a wonderful medicine woman. And so I wrote The Late Homecomer to remember her, but also, to be honest, because I missed her a lot, I was not ready to let her go. And in writing her story, I could spend time with her.
That's really beautiful. So it was a decision based at age 22 to stay close to your grandma.
Yes.
But also now you're bringing it out to the world. Like, you're just not writing to write, which is beautiful in and of itself, but you're writing because...
Halfway through the journey, I realized that what is in fact my grandma's story is the history of my people. And that the story belongs to people beyond just me. You know, we are all creatures of a bigger world. And so the book came out when I was 27 years old and made a writer out of me. And now, like 11 books later, right?
11 books. How many of them are children's books and how many of them are more adult?
So The Late Homecomer, The Song Poet, Somewhere in the Unknown World, Where God is Honored Here, and my newest one, Where Rivers Part, 5 of them are adult titles. 6 of them are children's books.
More kid books.
Yes, more kid books, and there will be more kid books coming out soon. So.
And you said you have kids yourself, so these books actually like carry the tradition on for them.
They do, and that means I have a test audience, right? So Elouise, before my editors see it, before the world sees it, I'm testing out my kids. Can it hold the attention of these 3?
Oh, did you know that? Do you know who Lin-Manuel Miranda is? The guy who wrote Hamilton. I don't know if you know what that is.
And Moana.
And Moana. Do you know what?
Listens to him a lot.
Do you know what I learned about with Moana?
What?
He knew that Moana's song, We Don't Talk About Bruno, was going to be a hit because his kid couldn't stop singing it. And he was like, you can't sing that! You can't sing that! Like, nobody can know this song! So that's a perfect way to do it.
It works.
Yeah.
I have a book that just came out on March 5th called The Rock in My Throat, and my children kept on talking about it. And now every time I read it, doesn't matter who's in the audience, everybody's just listening. You can hear the silence in a room talking back. But I tested it on those 3.
As a Hmong American, what stories are most important that you want people to know?
You know, for the little ones, I want them to know that their stories are incredibly important to who we are. It's not always stories of the past, it's the stories of their lives right here, right now, that really matter and that are an incredible force in who and where the future will be for us as a people and for all of us as Americans. That's really important for the young people to know. But I think for my elders, I want them to know that their stories are living on, that there are writers like me who are holding fast to these stories, and that, you know, in my case, I'm writing them into books. In some other case, they're becoming songs and plays and all kinds of things.
Who would you like to make sure had access to your stories?
Everybody. And that's why they're on Audibles. I mean, the song Poe has been translated into a Minnesota opera, a commissioned opera. It premiered in 2023.
What?
Yes,
That's
6
amazing.
months before a premiere. All the tickets are sold out already. And so it was an incredible experience, but I want to translate all of these experiences across mediums. And I'm working with the Minnesota Orchestra right now to plan something very cool for March. So March of next year,
Okay.
there might just be an evening with picture books by Kao Kalia Yang and the Minnesota Orchestra. So I'm doing all kinds of cool things because accessibility is so important to me. And because I think that art speaks to art.
Yes, very much so. Okay, before I forget, and this is an important one, as a mom, as a Minnesotan, as a reader and an author, before I forget, I want to make sure to ask you, what do you like to do for fun? Since this show is called Let's Go Do Fun Stuff.
I love flowers. So the Minnesota Arboretum, the Como Conservatory, all of these places have bits and pieces of my heart. I go wherever there is beauty blooming, because the job of the artist is to harvest from the garden of humanity. And the job of the mother is to let beauty flourish in our world.
She's a very good writer. She's good with words, isn't she? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And it's such an honor to meet you, Elouise.
What a kind and gentle and strong woman, right? It was my pleasure to spend time with her, Kao Kalia Yang, and my buddy Elouise one chilly morning. Thank you for your patience as Let's Go Do Fun Stuff was on hiatus unexpectedly due to my father's death. My dad was amazing and he would want us to keep going and enjoy learning about other people in our communities and in our world. So join me as we do that. With that said, we are now kind of going to change Let's Go Do Fun Stuff a little bit around. First of all, there's going to be no weekend top 3 on our Let's Go Do Fun Stuff show. That will be reserved for its own special, separate 3 to 5 minute show. And another change to Let's Go Do Fun Stuff is that it's not going to be exactly published regularly. It will be pretty much on a schedule, but we're not going to hold completely fast and steady to it, especially since the weekend top 3 is not going to coincide with Let's Go Do Fun Stuff. And now it's your turn to go do fun stuff.
Do you want to know what happened once with me? Once, when I was your age, this literally was your age, not my age. That would be terrible. I once wanted to know what it would be like to kick my brother in the stomach. So I did. And I found out and started crying because he started crying and I felt horrible. I was like, oh no, I did that. Number 1, I can't believe I hurt my brother. Number 2, I'm going to get in so much trouble. Yeah, don't kick your brother in the stomach. It doesn't feel good.
No.
Books in America come out on Tuesdays.
Really?
Always on a Tuesday. Isn't that cool? And you're one of very few people who now know this fact. So a lot of the children's book authors in Minnesota know each other.
Yeah.
You have to survive.
You